Want to go far in business and in life? You can't do it alone. The secret is expanding your network of personal relationships, building friendships, connecting on an intimate level, away from the office, over a coffee or cocktail. Welcome to All In with the real Nate Payo. The show that asks what happens when you go all in and leverage the power of your network of personal relationships.
From author Donnie Bovine comes the book, How to Be a Success Champion, available on Amazon. After years of living other people's dreams, author Donnie Bovine decided to jump out on his own and start a business, thinking it would be easy. Instead, he had a rude awakening and quickly understood that he had spent 20 years being an employee and had no idea how to be a business owner. His business was tanking, and he was on the brink of losing everything when he decided to fight for business freedom. In this must-read and life-changing book, author Donnie Bovine shares with readers his story intermingled with lessons learned from his mistakes and his failures. In How to Be a Success Champion, you will find advice the author received from mentors and how he went from zero to a six-figure business. The author walks you through the steps of how to get out of your own way, how to play the game of business and win, find your strengths, how to network effectively, how to build a personal brand, how to create champions for your business, how to get great at sales, how to take complete ownership of you and your business. How to Be a Success Champion from author Donnie Bovine, available on Amazon in both Kindle and paperback editions. Order your copy right now. It makes a great book for corporate events too. How to Be a Success Champion from author Donnie Bovine, available on Amazon.
Hello, welcome to the All In podcast with Nate Payo. Of course, I am your host, Nate Payo. Today, I'm joined with Adam Mendler, the CEO of the Velos Group, where he co-founded and oversees ventures across a wide variety of industries. Beverly Hills Chairs, the leading seller of refurbished Herman Miller, I can't pronounce the word, Aeron.
You got it. You
Aeron chairs in the country. Custom Tobacco, a one-of-a-kind e-commerce platform where customers can create fully customized private label cigars in real time, and Velos Solutions, a technology consulting and software development practice. Man, you're a busy guy. Adam's also a nationally acclaimed thought leader, writer, and speaker on topics including leadership, entrepreneurship, and management. You're also the creator and host of the podcast 30-Minute Mentors, where each week he goes one-on-one with the most successful people in the country and how they got to the top and what listeners can do. Wow. Very, very busy. Welcome to the show, Adam. How are you?
Nate, not too busy for you, not too busy for your listeners. Excited to be here with you and excited to dive right in.
Yeah, fantastic. So we were kind of chit-chatting before the show, and your screen popped up with the Angels jersey. I think it's just a jersey. Or you're holding the jersey up. And we started chit-chatting a little bit about the Angels because we have, I guess, similar interests in sports teams or sports interests. And I always talk about, like, with networking, being like one-dimensional is like just maybe a thing of the past. Like, if everybody knew you from business as just like one person, I'm business Nate, or I'm, all this stuff. But when you start showcasing different sides of you, you find out you're relatable to somebody, and then the conversation starts building, and you start kind of conversing about a bunch of other stuff. And then after a while, you start having some laughs and maybe kind of developing a friendship. And then it's like, hey, what are you up to? What business are you in? And I think business tends to flow when you start it on a personal level to begin with. So I thought that was kind of funny that our first conversation really was around baseball.
Nate, I'm always happy to talk about baseball. I'm always happy to talk about anything. So one of the things that I bring up often when I'm talking to different audiences, if I'm coming in as a speaker, it could be talking to corporations, it could be talking to college students. The purpose of my talk isn't about me. the purpose of my talk is about me conveying a message that is going to resonate with my audience. Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to be as mindful as possible about who it is that I'm speaking to. So if I'm giving a talk to a group of college students, what is the kind of content that is going to be most relatable to them? And not just college students, but if I'm giving a talk to a group of undergraduate business students, they're probably going to be interested in something a little bit different than if I'm giving a talk to kids in a student group that's focused more on, let's say, public speaking, or let's say focused more on some kind of hobby or special interest. So what I'm always thinking about is, what is my audience? It's no different when you're meeting a new person, when you're cultivating a brand new relationship. You should always focus on the person that you're developing that relationship with. Nate, something that we spoke about off the air is, there's nothing I'd rather talk about than baseball. There's nothing I'd rather spend my time doing than talking Angels baseball. You and I could talk about the Angels for the next 30 minutes, and I would be so happy. I would walk away and say, man, that was the best 30 minutes of my day, talking about Trout and Shohei and David Fletcher. You and I could literally do a podcast, 30 minutes just on David Fletcher.
There you go.
And that would be amazing for me. But would that be amazing for your listeners? Would they really enjoy that? So when you meet someone new, don't bring up the topic that is most interesting to you. Bring up the topic that's going to be most interesting to them. Mm-hmm. Play ball on their turf. Play ball on their terms. If you can do that, you're going to be successful.
I think a lot of people really start seeing success in whatever their endeavors are, whether it's like a personal goal, business goal, life goal, whatever, when they do make the connections about other people, and you're serving other people and what their interests are. And so, like, if you're wondering why, you're not getting good conversions in your sales, or you're not meeting the right leads, or people are telling you no a lot, you're like, well, how are you conversing with people? And if you're leading with you first, here's what I can do for you, here's all the good things about me. People don't want to hear that, man. People want to hear, hey, what are you like? They want to know, people like talk about themselves. I guess that's the way to describe it. And so, like, you do want to engage on what people have interest in, and then let the conversation go from there. And then, like you said, people are going to be more willing to talk with you more and listen to what you have to say when your message is about them.
Nate, I think I know the answer to this question, but have you ever been on a bad date before?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
What happens when you go on a really bad date and you're sitting there and you're like, my God, I just need to fill up this next hour, because how do I make time fly? What do you do? What do you talk about?
Gosh, I don't know. It's been a while since I've been on a date, let alone a bad one. But I guess you try to make some small talk, and you try to get them, saying more than just one word.
Because you talk about them. You ask about them, because at the end of the day, people like talking about themselves. People like talking about the stuff that they're interested in. So whether you're on a bad date or on a good date or on a great date, or whether you're meeting with a sales prospect, or whether you're at a networking event and you're standing next to a stranger who you want to turn into a friend. Mm-hmm. It's all about connecting with people around the kind of content that they find interesting. And that at a bare minimum, there's one topic that all people find interesting, and that's themselves.
There you go. The keys to success delivered in one sentence. So you're involved with a ton of different stuff, and they're like such a wide variety of interests, from refurbished high-end furniture to cigars to software and technology, and doing a podcast. Like, what's been your why behind getting into some of these various ventures, and how did you kind of like get plugged into them as well? I mean, they're all kind of very nichey that you don't, not very many people wake up in the cigar business? You know, a lot of times you're born into it, or you have like a distinct passion and to go pursue it and find out more.
Yeah, I didn't wake up at age 12 and say, I really want to sell office chairs. That wasn't my dream as a kid. But I think it's important as an entrepreneur to be open to opportunity, to be open-minded, and not to be predispositioned to where life takes you.
Mm-hmm.
Write down your plans in pencil. Don't use red ink because there's a good chance you're going to need an eraser. And my experience has really demonstrated that if you do something well, that could lead to another opportunity, and that could lead to another opportunity. And the journey for me started way back in the day and has taken a lot of twists and turns. My entrepreneurial journey started back in 2012. Mm-hmm. I started the Velos Group with my brother. We started a parent company with a bunch of ideas in mind. We wound up starting Beverly Hills Chairs first. Beverly Hills Chairs, for listeners who are not familiar with it, is the leading seller in the country of refurbished brand name chairs. So the Herman Miller Aeron chair, the Herman Miller Mira chair, the Steelcase Leap chair, these are all chairs that retail for over $1,000. And we sell them to customers for more than 50% off. They look like brand new chairs. They're aesthetically and functionally like brand new chairs. And we give a lifetime warranty. That's a business that we've turned into this national company. And it's been an interesting and amazing journey. Our cigar company, Custom Tobacco, if you go to customtobacco.com, you can create your own fully customized private label cigars in real time. Everything's customized: the shape, the size, the blend, the wrapper, filler, flavor. They're premium. We source them from the Dominican Republic and Nicaragua. So if you're having a bachelor party, or if it's a wedding or a corporate event or a golf tournament, you can have your own private label. And no, Nate, I am not a passionate cigar guy. That was not a passion of mine. But my brother is a passionate cigar guy. He lives and breathes cigars. And I've always been passionate about marketing and branding. And it was really the marriage of my brother's passion for cigars and my passion for branding, and the ability to give people the opportunity to create their own brand, extend their own brand, to do it on a product in a unique way. With
I think
office furniture. Oh, I'm sorry.
I was just going to kind of comment on both of those. I mean, what they are is they're like super niche industries, but the people that are plugged into them that are going to go and want to spend $1,000 on an office chair or buy a custom label, private label cigar, they're also very, very passionate about what they're doing and their interest in it. And like, you know, you're marketing to them, you're having conversations, and it's just, I think it's just, you deal with people that just have a level of excitement around that idea that makes it probably a bit more fun and interesting to go to work every day.
With office chairs, so with cigars, what's interesting is the cigar culture. And Nate, I'm not a cigar smoker. I've actually never smoked a cigar before in my life. My brother has more than made up for that fact. But so I'm not the product guy in that business, but my brother is. And with cigars, everyone knows that there's this very clear cigar culture. People love it and live it and whatnot. A lot of our customers, the majority of our customers, are not cigar connoisseurs. We primarily sell to women who are buying cigars for events and for gifts. We're selling to a lot of event planners, and we're selling to a lot of individuals who are trying to find the right gift for the man in their life. It could be their boyfriend, their boss, their father, their uncle, whoever it is. And I mean, I don't really like to stereotype. I don't like to generalize, I don't think of myself as sexist, but
Mm-hmm.
I am going to generalize and stereotype right now and say that women are, on balance, more thoughtful than men. And women tend to be more thoughtful in general and are definitely more thoughtful when it comes to giving gifts. So while we do have a lot of guys who come onto the site and say, oh, this is an awesome gift for my buddy, tends to be women who put in the time and energy and care for finding that right gift, whether it's a present for a loved one or whether it's the right way to boost the event that they're running. With
Yeah.
Beverly Hills Chairs, what's really cool about that business is you hit the nail on the head. People are so passionate about finding the right chair. When I was working in corporate America, I sat on Herman Miller Aeron chairs and didn't even know it. My first job, I worked for a hedge fund and their whole office was outfitted with Aerons. I didn't know what an Aeron was. I then worked for an investment bank and the whole place had Aeron chairs. I still didn't know what an Aeron was. When we started this business and we started selling chairs to all different kinds of companies, to not only financial services firms, but tech companies, entertainment companies, professional services firms. We've actually sold chairs to the US Senate. We've sold chairs to West Point. I don't know if this podcast is streaming on Spotify, but we've sold chairs to Spotify. And what's awesome is people who buy ergonomic chairs are so into it. And it's a lifestyle move.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing it for your health. You're doing it for your productivity. You're doing it for everything, personally, professionally. It's Nate, you nailed it, man.
Yeah. So that kind of like, well, I'm surprised, but not surprised. Like if you would have said who buys the most cigars, I would have said it's the dudes. But when you said it was the women, I was like, you know what? That does make a ton of sense. And it kind of, I think back to like a story. You said women are like a lot more insightful into the planning and stuff goes in. It reminds me of this story, and this might not even be related at all to what you just said, but the Disneyland resort hotel was they had like 3 or 4 resorts in Florida that were getting booked up all the time, but one of them wasn't, and it was really struggling to get reservations and do the occupancy that the other hotels were doing, and they were struggling for the life of them to figure out like, why is this not working? Why is this one like just not as popular as the others? And I think they had like a brainstorming with a lot of their staff, and somebody raised their hand and they said, here's your problem. And they were the person that takes the orders of where to book. And when they're describing the hotel, they're the ones that knew, like, okay, people are picking these 3, but not that one. And they said, here's the thing. It's the women that call and book the rooms. They book the hotel, they book the stay. And all three's other 3 had like names, like whatever, who knows what they were. But the one that wasn't doing was called like the Disneyland Golf Resort or Golf End Resort, something like that. And they said the women automatically think, oh, golf trip. Nope, this is family trip. We're not staying at the golf one, or the husband's going to be out on the golf course all day long. And so they like just realized that they just had to like identify who is making that decision.
Interesting.
And I think the women do. They have a lot more insight. A guy's like, I don't know, like who cares? It's a hotel's a hotel. But the women are like, hey, this is portraying a vision of how I want my vacation to be, and it's I don't know. Like you said, it's probably a bit generalization, but I just thought it was kind of like an interesting similar experience. The kind of
not all women are thoughtful. Not all women are thoughtful. Not all men aren't thoughtful. But as a general rule, yeah, women tend to be.
So this interesting path your life and your career has taken leads me to my next question, which is this idea of luck and whether you believe people are lucky or unlucky, and your thoughts around luck.
I do believe in the concept of luck. I think it's hard to look around and not correlate success with luck. There are many factors that go into success, and I think luck is one of them. I think that hard work plays a huge role. I think that you can't dismiss how important so much of each input is, but a big input is luck. We have to make our own luck, but we do have to recognize that when luck comes our way, let's not pretend like it didn't come.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot to be said about creating your own luck. And part of creating your luck is being aware, I think, of opportunities and being open to them. Like let's use the baseball analogy with Ted Williams. And Ted Williams is the last guy that hit over 400.
406, yeah.
406. And you say, oh, he's maybe a lucky hitter or he got better pitches and stuff like that. But what he talked about was the reason why he had so many hits was because he only swung at the pitches that he was more likely to have a successful outcome. So if it was pitches that were clearly stuff he wasn't going to get a hit on, like the position of where it came, low, high, outside, inside, the speed, the slider, the curve, whatever, all these things. Like he limited his pitches to what he'd swing at. It was only if it was these type of pitches. And so I think that's a lot to do with luck is you start putting yourself in positions where the positive outcomes are more likely to occur. So then you're creating your own luck, but you're also aware of when those opportunities present themselves, you take a swing at them, but you don't swing at the ones that aren't out there. You're not swinging at open air. So then your chances for luck definitely improves. And then people look at you like, oh, the guy got lucky, but there's luck and there's created luck and there's, hard work and effort and taking advantage of the situations when they present themselves and making the best of them too.
Really interesting example, talking about Ted Williams and staying on the theme of baseball. It's really hard to become a Major League Baseball player and to do it by purely being lucky.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of a single Major League player in today's game who's there because of nepotism, who's there because of anything other than performance.
Mm-hmm.
To become a player at that level, to make it to the show, you've got to be really good. Now, are there players in AAA that are possibly good enough to play at the majors and need the right break? Maybe there's so many factors in baseball that can be argued. Is it luck? I don't know. Are you familiar, Nate, with the BABIP, BABIP, that statistic? Batting average on balls in play.
Yeah, kind of.
We might be going into a little bit too much minutia for listeners, but without getting too granular, it's really important to understand that if you're playing ball at a certain level, and when I say playing ball, I mean it literally in terms of the example of baseball, but I also mean it figuratively in terms of succeeding at any level. If you're playing on the highest stages, if you're performing at the highest levels, you're likely doing it because of a lot of variables outside of luck. You're likely doing it because you're extremely talented, because you've worked really hard to get there, because you've been extremely determined. I did an interview on my podcast recently with a guy named Ryan Murphy. Ryan is one of the top swimmers in the world. Ryan is 24 years old. He already has 3 Olympic gold medals. He is the world record holder in one of the categories. And he is just an incredible guy. And we spoke about a number of topics in our 30-minute conversation. But one of the areas that I asked him about was on what it takes to become an Olympic gold medalist. How much of it is natural talent and how much of it is hard work and how much of it is all the stuff that goes in, the preparation. And what Ryan told me is there are lots of guys out there that can excel at just about the highest levels. There are guys out there who can be great collegiate swimmers. And by the way, I know all about swimming from talking to Ryan. My swimming career ended with me swimming laps in my parents' pool. And that's about all I know about swimming. But what Ryan told me is you could be a great collegiate swimmer without having to really push yourself all that hard if you are naturally gifted. Mm-hmm. And he's seen it because he's competed with some of the best swimmers in college. He swam at Berkeley. But to become an Olympic gold medalist, to swim at that level, you have to be incredibly talented and you have to work harder than anyone. It's the marriage of those two.
Yeah, that's definitely true. That kind of leads me to my next question I had for you was the concept of being all in on like an idea or an outcome, or I guess maybe even your sport profession of choosing. What does being all in mean to you?
Being all in is a state of mind. And whether you're playing sports or whether you're playing the game of life, I love people who are passionate. I think anyone listening to this podcast can tell that I'm a highly passionate person, passionate about anything that I do, whether it's selling chairs, whether it's giving a talk to college students or giving a talk to CEOs, whether it's my podcast, 30-Minute Mentors, whether it's my niece or nephew. I'm just passionate about being an uncle. Mm-hmm. Last night I was hanging out with my sister and my niece and just love that aspect of my life. Whatever it is that you're doing, we're talking about baseball. I'm a passionate Angels fan, man. I love the Angels. I still want to do a 30-minute podcast episode on David Fletcher. So being all in is living life with passion.
Yes, it definitely is. Passion is powerful, and it's what's going to get you up and you know, on the days you don't want to do stuff, it's going to, you know, be your why of why you want to continue on. You mentioned
one of my favorite quotes, Nate, is I'm sure you know, and I'd imagine many of your listeners know Dr. J, the great Julius Erving.
He was like my first big name basketball person when I was a kid growing up is Dr. J, and I used to dunk my Nerf basketball hoop in the basement of my house in Nebraska, and pretend I was Dr. J.
That's pretty cool. By the way, Nate, you and I, we could do a whole podcast just on Nebraska football if you want. We could talk about Tom Osborne, and we could talk about Frost, and we could talk about Darren Erstad, maybe the greatest Husker of all time.
Oh, I don't know. He's got a bit of a bad reputation for briefly for missing a field goal where he could have won one of the first national championships in the 90s. But
he was an Angel, man. Darren Erstad.
He was, and he was
the last out in the 2002 World Series.
Redemption.
Number 1 pick in the draft. Talk about intensity. Talk about being all in. Darren Erstad, man. Anyone from Nebraska. I don't know how many of your listeners are Nebraskans, and any Nebraskan who I know is a super passionate person. Nebraskans are all in, man. And Darren Erstad is as passionate a guy as there is. I don't know Darren Erstad personally, maybe one day, but Darren Erstad exudes passion.
Yeah. Yes, for sure. So you had mentioned briefly that you had a podcast, 30-Minute Mentors. I want to make sure we talk about that. You must get exposed to just a ton of brilliant ideas of people that either are operating at high levels, or they're coaching, mentoring others to operate at high levels, or at one point been, at the top of their game. Like, how is the 30-minute mentors been as an influence on you?
It's been awesome. It's just great. How can it not be? I have the ability to connect with all these incredible leaders. And what I try to do is take that experience and share it with my listeners, share it with as broad an audience as possible. Every episode that I'm experiencing for myself as the interviewer, I'm learning a lot. I'm taking things back to my life that can help me improve, that can help me become a better leader. And I know that anyone listening to any episode can walk away with at least a couple of things in that 30-minute interview, hopefully more. But if you could walk away with 2 or 3 things that you could apply to your life to become more successful, that's a huge win. So that's what I love doing. I'm passionate about leadership. I'm passionate about mentorship. And my goal is to bring the best network of mentors possible, accessible to listeners for 30-minute increments once a week. Founders and CEOs of household name companies, celebrities and athletes, generals and admirals. And it's just been a ton of fun.
Yeah, I think there's something about like having a conversation on a podcast or using the podcast as a platform to essentially have conversations with maybe these people you wouldn't have otherwise had a chance to speak to. But when you rub elbows with inspiring people, it tends to elevate your inspiration or your mindset too. And that people always say like the 5 people you spend the most time with are a reflection of who you are. And raising your level of people you're around also tends to improve how you view life too. So just, I think your constant exposure to people of this level probably improves your passion. But I also think it probably flips it around a bit too. Like, passion attracts passion as well. And you've clearly shown a lot of passion for a lot of topics and subjects and live an exciting and interesting life. And I'm sure that rubs off right back around those people too, that they go, hey man, I had a fantastic conversation with this podcast guest or host, and man, I love it. So very
Thanks,
cool.
Man. Yeah, it's great. It's just a ton of fun.
So who would be like the ideal listener for your podcast? Who's that person that's really out there that you're speaking to?
So I'm speaking to 2 different audiences. I'm speaking to audience number 1, which is the person who's trying to take the next step on their journey. It could be someone who is in college or just getting out of college. It could be someone who is early in their career and trying to become more successful in their careers, more successful in their lives, and trying to give them content to help them grow personally and professionally. That's one audience that I really focus on with the kind of content that I put out. The second audience that I'm thinking about equally is the same audience that comes on my show as guests. So the guests who I have who are the most successful people on my show, many of them are also listeners of the podcast. A friend of mine who is a retired general told me one of the things that's so cool is I never realized how much I had in common with the CEO of Gold's Gym. I never realized how interesting an interview with Suzanne Summers would be to my life. I love Rob Lowe on TV, but that was a cool interview, So hearing that from a retired general was something really interesting to me. So I really try to focus my interviews not only on people early on in their journeys, trying to learn how to become better leaders and trying to learn and grow, but what I've learned and come to learn through this experience is everyone is trying to learn, everyone is trying to grow, everyone is trying to become a better leader, even the most successful leaders. So I do try to steer a lot of the content to people who are already at the top, but are trying to stay at the top and trying to continue to innovate and continue to grow. I just did an interview, my most recent podcast. I'm not sure when this episode is going to air, but at least as of the date of this conversation, my most recent podcast was with General Martin Dempsey, who is the 18th. He was the 18th chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. So for listeners who aren't familiar with the military, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff is the highest ranking military officer in the United States and the primary military advisor to the president of the United States. So Martin Dempsey was the highest ranking military officer in America for several years while President Obama was in office. And we spoke about a wide variety of topics, how to get to the top of an organization. The military is as interesting an organization as there is. Martin Dempsey rose to the top of it. Hearing his advice on how to get there was fascinating. How to become a better leader. He just wrote a book on leadership, so picking his brain on how anyone can become a better leader. And one of the things that he shared, which was really interesting, that I wanted to share to your audience when you ask me who listens to my show, General Dempsey said that something that all leaders need to do is learn. All leaders need to constantly evolve and constantly learn. When you are at a place when you feel like you already know everything and you're set in your ways, you're setting yourself up for failure. Great leaders are continually evolving, continually growing, continually learning. And my hope is that through my content, I'm giving leaders a tool to continue to develop and continue to evolve.
I think you're definitely on the right path there. And one of the things that when I was a kid, a teacher told me in high school, he said, I'm probably gonna get this wrong thinking about it. If I show you how to do something, you'll probably learn about, if I tell you how to do something verbally, you'll learn about 25% of it. If I show you how to do it, like I watch you do it, I'll learn about 50% of it. If I do it myself, I'm going to understand about 75% of it. But I don't really learn 100% of what that task is or topic or subject until I teach it to somebody else. And it was true. It was like if I was working on a project and I figured it out and I did it and I got done early, he would go, okay, you need to go help that person finish their assignment. And like along the way, I'd go, oh, well, here's where I messed up and skip this step. And I figured this out. We could do this a little quicker. That's good too. So it was super, super true. And I think all these leaders and mentors that you're talking about having, they're also giving back, either writing books or talking on podcasts, and they're actually mentoring other people and they're learning it as well. And then they're continuously learning new things as they go along. So definitely powerful stuff to keep learning and keep using knowledge and stuff like that. So very cool. Well, I've had a great time with you here on my show. Where can people find you?
I try to make it as easy as possible for anyone interested. It's my name. So you can go to adammendler.com. You can find me on social media at Adam Mendler. You can find me on Instagram at Adam Mendler. You can find me on Twitter at Adam Mendler. You can connect with me through my podcast at 30minutementors.com. The name of the show is 30 Minute Mentors, all spelled out. So just punch in 30minutementors.com or go to whatever your favorite podcasting app is, whatever app you're listening to this podcast on, and type out 30 Minute Mentors, and hope you become a listener and a subscriber. And Nate, really enjoyed this conversation. Thanks again for having me on.
I did too. So please go out there, support Adam, download his podcast. I think you're going to learn a lot. And, if you have interest in all these cigars, nice chairs, Angels baseball, hit him up, connect with him, and, listen and learn. He's got great stuff. Pleasure having you on the show. Really enjoyed our conversation.
Thanks, Nate. This was great. Really enjoyed it.
All right. Thank you.
Make sure to visit our website, therealnatepeo.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, so you'll never miss an episode of All In. While you're at it, if you found value, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or if simply tell 2 friends about the show. Looking to connect? You can find Nate Peo on LinkedIn or Instagram.